Welcome to Weathering the Change, a presentation created for farmers and landowners. I'm Dave Hollinger, Director of the USDA's Northeast Climate Hub. In this presentation, you'll be hearing from Elizabeth Marks with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. But first, I want to thank you for your desire to learn more about climate change. I also wanted to tell you a bit more about the Northeast Climate Hub. The Climate Hubs were established by the Department of Agriculture in 2014. They are a unique partnership of three different USDA agencies: the Forest Service, the Agricultural Research Service, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service. The purpose of the hubs is to work with producers, extension, and researchers to find and share practical solutions for dealing with climate variability and change on the farm or in your forest. I think most people are noticing that weather patterns are changing. Climate is just the average weather for a place and time, so saying the climate is changing somewhere is the same as saying that the average weather is changing. For whatever reason, though, the words climate change have gotten politicized, and other terms such as weather volatility or changing weather patterns may be more acceptable. You or landowners you know may find that you want to become more resilient to droughts or heavy rain. Using other terms besides climate change is fine and may be easier to relate to. Even if the people you work with aren't convinced about climate change, there are many other benefits to reducing greenhouse gases and implementing climate-smart farming practices that can improve farming under current conditions. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization defines climate-smart farming as agriculture that sustainably increases productivity and resilience, reduces or removes greenhouse gases, and enhances achievement of national food security and development goals. Climate-smart farming also goes by other terms such as natural climate solutions, engineering with nature, or weather and drought resiliency. You'll also see that soil health is at the very heart of climate-smart farming. Now, on to climate-smart farming. Here now is Elizabeth Marks of the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Marks, a biologist with the Natural Resources Conservation Service in New York, and was on special assignment in 2020 as the Northeast Climate Hub Liaison to NRCS. In this presentation, you will learn about specific changes in climate at the state and national level. I will talk about why these changes are occurring and what farmers can do to be resilient to them while improving natural resources on the farm. Climate change can be a challenging topic to discuss. Despite the fact that 97% of all peer-reviewed scientific studies conclude that global warming is happening and it is human-caused, some people still don't believe in it. Here's how to talk about it. When talking about climate change, be sure to take time to really listen and understand what is important to your customer. What are their individual goals and values for the family and for the farm? Climate change connects to us so many different topics. This is not just an environmental issue, but also relates to human health, the economy, and national security, among others. If you understand what's important to your audience, you can tailor your message and connect climate change impacts to things they already care about, such as wildlife or crop yields. When I visit with farmers, I spend the first part of our meeting asking questions and understanding their goals and future vision for their farm before I recommend any practices or programs. For the owner of this orchard, it was really important to him that future climate is stable enough to maintain his apple orchard so that future generations can go apple picking in the fall. Most of our customers don't see polar bears or melting glaciers in their day-to-day lives. Using these sort of examples can make climate change feel like a faraway problem and gives people the impression that it's something that will happen in the future not an issue that will impact them during their lifetime. But climate change is happening now, and its effects can be felt across the globe, even in our own communities. When discussing climate change with producers, talk to them about local, relatable examples like the drought that happened last summer or the intense rainfall they experienced this spring. Share your own experiences and use real-world examples. For example, I grew up in the Adirondacks in upstate New York. When I was a kid, we didn't have ticks. Now the Adirondacks have warmed so much that ticks are able to survive the winter. Now we have to worry about ticks and all of the negative things that come with them. Remember to keep your messages hopeful. It is most important to stay positive and empower the people you work with by offering specific solutions and ideas for next steps. Be sure to emphasize that adapting to climate change is both necessary and possible. For example, in the picture of the soil thermometers, we see that not overgrazing pasture can keep the ground cooler and therefore it will retain more moisture. USDA staff are in a unique position to educate farmers about how to understand and adapt to climate change. We work directly in the community and regularly interact with landowners and farmers. Studies have shown that local trusted messengers are the most effective communicators. For that reason, USDA staff are ideal candidates for playing the important role of intermediary between scientists, climatologists, and land managers. Let's understand how the climate has changed over the last 125 plus years in the US. Much of the data in this presentation has come from the fourth National Climate Assessment published in 2018. The assessment is based on the findings of the US Global Change Research Program and is required by law to be published every 4 years. The US Global Change Research Program is a federally funded program with contributions from many different agencies and partners, including USDA. Around the world, the average global temperature has risen by 2.1 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880, with the rises occurring the fastest since 1979. These increases in temperature have been observed in the United States. However, not all parts of the US have been warming at the same rate. The North, Northeast, and West have seen the greatest increases in temperatures, while the southeastern parts of the US have seen the least changes. Parts of some states, such as Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas, have even gotten slightly cooler on average. Observed changes in the rise in temperature also differs depending on the season. You can see that in many areas of the country, winter is warming greater than the average 2.1 degrees Fahrenheit. In the north and eastern parts of the US, the average temperature has risen in the wintertime 3 to 6 degrees since 1970 alone. Increases in temperature have resulted in an increase in the growing season length. In California and Arizona, the growing season is almost 6 weeks longer than it was in 1895. In the Northeast, it is up to 3 weeks longer. An increase in growing season length also means an increase in the number of days when pests are active. For example, in some places, mosquitoes are active 37 more days throughout the year than they were just 40 years ago. To see how much longer the mosquito season is in your area, click on the source link below. Rainfall has changed too, with wet areas becoming wetter and dry areas becoming drier. Just as with temperature, the 4 seasons are experiencing different changes in precipitation. This graphic shows how rainfall patterns have changed throughout the different seasons since 1895. Not only has the overall amount of precipitation changed, the intensity of storms has increased in most places. This map shows the percent increase in the number of storms that resulted in very high precipitation. In the Northeast, we've seen an increase in frequency of heavy rain events. Heavy rain is defined as over 2 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. There has been an average 71% increase in these storm events since 1950 in the Northeast. This is an average throughout the Northeast. Inland and more mountainous areas have seen higher increases, where along the coast increases have been more moderate. For more information and to sign up for the Northeast Climate Hub's quarterly newsletter, please visit our website.